Hello everyone, this is Korosh Erfani and today is Sunday, March 15, 2026. We are going to talk about the 16th day of the war of Israel and the United States against Iran. As you know, this operation that Trump qualified as short incursion was supposed to bring about the results in a few hours, maybe in 16 hours, but right now we are in the 16 days, and of course it keeps going. And today President Trump received several answers from multiple countries that said no to the invitation to come and join a common naval force of the United States in the region in order to reopen the Hormuz Strait that remains closed by the Iranians. So we got the answer of Japan that said no, we cannot do that. South Korea, also Australia, and of course before that we got the answer of France, Germany, United Kingdom. Nobody wants to come. And one of the interesting questions is why, because we are talking about the countries that are usually kind of allies of the United States, participated already in other adventures like Iraq or Afghanistan, but why this time they don't want really to join the Americans in order to make something that will really help theoretically to the global economy, right? Because some of these countries are really affected by the closure of the Hormuz Strait, like the South Korea, for example, that receives a lot of source of energy from the Middle East. So the reason could be something that cannot be recognized by these countries, but implicitly we can see that they are talking about that, right? Or they are pointing to. This is a very delicate matter of the lack of independence for the United States. These countries started to see that this superpower that we call the United States of America is almost completely under control of Israel, or let's say the Zionists, right? So when you cannot show any sense of sovereignty, independence or autonomy, of course the other countries are not relying on you, right? And they cannot count on you because they know that you are not the one who will decide about what to do. Even though apparently this is Mr. Trump as the President of the United States who is taking this or that decision regarding starting the war, continuing the war, ending the war, but nobody believes it because everyone knows that Trump didn't want this war, right? At the same time, it entered and started this war. Why? Because it was at the best of Israel, with the order of Israel. With reference to sovereignty, we know that when the countries are under domination of an external force, they cannot decide for themselves. That's why the other states start to deal with this country in a complete different way. So this is one of the reasons. Okay, it's obvious that the Americans are showing that they are somehow dependent or subject to Israelis, right? For the reasons that we know perfectly, but they know also. Now, another reason is that the configuration that the United States had presented as a very powerful system of military action, military operation, which was, at least outside, based and grounded on the presence of aircraft carriers, right? And that was the idea. And that's why United States was very happy because it has the highest number of aircraft carriers, in the world, compared to China, Russia, United Kingdom, or any other countries. But it looks like that this main element of the military system of the United States is now outdated, is somehow really, we can say, devoid of the importance that could have in the previous decades, right, in the 20th century, for example. I would like to review a few titles of the Western media in order to show you that what is collapsing is not physically the American empire yet, but the concept and the ideas, right, the perception of the United States is getting collapsed. What is falling apart is not really the United States itself, but its image, right? So I would like to just take this case of the aircraft carriers as an example, and by extension we can see that it's almost same thing for any other important or cardinal element that Americans were presenting as something extremely important for their superiority, right? Military superiority. So, for example, Reuters is reporting that the era of aircraft carriers is coming to an end. Is an assertion, really. So the reason USS Abraham Lincoln is limping out of the Persian Gulf, as getting away from the Persian Gulf. What happens? Again, Reuters is reporting, with its military ingenuity, Iran has proven that aircraft carriers are no longer impregnable fortress, a fortress where nothing can come, nothing can hit, nothing can damage. That aircraft carrier are no longer impregnable fortress, but merely large and expensive targets, which means now with this military ingenuity, Iranians are able to put to call into question the reliability of these aircraft carriers that were supposed to be impregnable. And no way that you can hit them or damage them or somehow attack them. How they are doing so, the Iranians, just by little drones, like the Shahed 32 drones, right? These are the very light model of drones, fabricated with really the basic materials. For the engine, they are using 2 engine of motorcycle, the ordinary street motorcycle, with a little explosion for their head, with the fiberglass or this kind of material. So the estimation is the cost of the fabrication of one drone of Shahid for Iran is something between $7,000 to $20,000. And can you imagine that with a few drones of that cost, they are putting at risk the whole existence of the aircraft carrier, which we are talking about something that is, above multiple billions of dollars, right? Each of them. And I am not talking about what can be carried by these aircraft carriers, but itself, as a structure, as a huge structure that must be maintained and needs energy sources, services, and anything with billions and billions of dollars cost. And can you imagine that this is attacked, apparently, according to Reuters, only and only thanks to a few drones, by means of, let's say, less than $100,000, they can put at risk something that can cost, with all the aircrafts that are there, billions and billions of dollars. So this is very emblematic, this is very symbolic, that the United States has become a huge giant, but a giant that has several weakness points where any country, Houthi, Hezbollah, Iran, or etc., can effectively be a threat for them. Let's see CNN what's saying about that. It says that the return of the USS Abraham Lincoln to the United States in this condition is the biggest blow to the reputation of the American military since the Vietnam War. Okay? So which means that the foundations of a military system that was supposed to dominate the world, dominate all the oceans, all the continent, all the globe, now this foundation is called into question, is not any more reliable. And that's why CNN is talking about the biggest blow. And that's a catastrophe for Trump as someone who wants to be very belligerent, very aggressive, warmonger, in order to bully every country in the world. So now Iranians are showing that this guy doesn't have that much, at his disposal to bully you. Even though it can attempt, it can try, but this machine is not that efficient or effective once the whole world believed it or thought of. Sputnik is talking about the legend is dead. The legend is dead. Why? Because at a given moment, these huge, gigantesque aircraft carriers were really a military legend, right? But right now, not really. Sputnik says Abraham Lincoln arrived to threaten, but is returning as a floating pile of scrap. This is how they are qualifying the most important component of the military system, the military machine of the United States. Agence France Presse, AFP, talking about panic in the Pentagon, right? Why? With the withdrawal of the USS Abraham Lincoln, the balance of power in West Asia has definitively shifted in Iran's favor. So can you imagine that a country whose navy is supposed to be completely destroyed, right? This is what Trump said, that they don't have anything anymore, right? This is what he said, and he really believed in, because he had been told that. Okay, now a country that theoretically doesn't have any navy force, any naval ship or destroyer or whatsoever, is able, according to AFP, to shift the situation in its favor, even though the other side has not only one USS Abraham Lincoln, but several several aircraft carriers. So what does it mean? It means that the United States acted in such a stupid way that they are somehow surprised facing the ingenuity of the Iranians. So this is when you are not completely prepared, but you want to wage the war because Netanyahu has ordered that, and at the best of Israel, you have to start a war for which you don't have enough preparedness. So that's why the people are talking about. Let me quote you what the Telegraph, the British newspaper, is saying. The defeat will go down in history. The defeat of the Americans, the defeat that this empty giant of USS Abraham Lincoln and other aircraft carriers, the defeat will go down in history as the moment Western naval dominance collapsed. This is how the people are describing. We can account for the daily nonsensical sayings of Trump, or what the other people are effectively saying based on the objective elements with reference to what's happening in reality, not by the empty talks of Trump. Talking about Trump, the contradiction between the reality that medias are exposing and what he is telling us became such that let me show you what is happening. Here you can see the Daily Beast is reporting President Donald Trump has spent Sunday calling for the death penalty for reporters covering his war in Iran in a negative manner. Can you imagine? Death penalty for journalists, for media, for news outlets. Why? Because they are reporting what is happening really, on the ground, with reference to the videos and the reports of the reporters that are on the ground, and what he is fabricating and making up and exposing as a report or statements on this or that. So this discrepancy is very meaningful. It shows that the American leadership is detaching itself from the reality and is trying to hold really a rhetoric that doesn't represent anything that is going on over there. Because in accordance with what Trump says, the war is over, the Americans won, the United States won the war, and there is nothing more left to the Iranians. No missiles, no drones, no nothing. But we don't know how Iranians are sending at least 3 to 4 waves of missiles and drones toward Israel on a daily basis, with 10 to 20 missiles and much more drones, over there. How they are able to attack almost everything on the ground in the Persian Gulf, in all the countries of that region, including United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and so on. So we don't know how they are doing so, but it looks like that. Let me show you something. This is for today. Just Dubai airport is out of service, right? Just by a few drones, Iranian drones over there. This is the situation in the biggest and most populated airports in the world. So Trump is reporting that there is no more capability of drone or missiles for the Iranians, and 16 days after what is telling us, we can see how the Iranians are effectively damaging whatever they want. So this discrepancy is so meaningful that now we can better understand why the different countries that had been invited by Trump to join this common naval force really don't want to do so. For example, Japan has officially rejected Trump's request and will not send naval ships to Strait of Hormuz. So one of the reasons Japan doesn't want to do so is something that I would like to develop in this part of my presentation. As you know, whatever was happening from the first minute of this war up to now had been observed by many countries across the world, and essentially those who are interested to have an objective and realistic estimation regarding the real might or power of the United States, because there are some countries that are really interested in. Let me name a few ones: China, North Korea, Russia. They want to know, because they are the competitors. They are the potential enemies of the United States. And they wanted to know what is the real capability of the Americans to do something. For example, in a hypothetical war with China, North Korea, Russia, and so on. Now, thanks to 16 days of war, and this almost disastrous record of the result of the Americans' operation, because we know that the United States and Israel have had maybe more than 6,000 or 7,000 strikes over Iraq. We are talking about the strikes with the different kinds of aircraft, including B-2, B-5 so everything, almost everything that they had in their arsenal, they used in order to bomb Iran, to attack Iran during these 16 days. But when we see the result, we don't see really any element that can tell us that Iran is going to surrender, Iran is going to disintegrate, to collapse, to fall apart. We don't have any sign or indicators of that. We have many signs that are telling us something, opposite, exactly the contrary of that. But for now, nothing that shows that Iran is breaking down. And we don't see that. Now, China is watching that, right? Has been watching that from the day one. And that's why from today even, it has started to mobilize more and more naval forces and getting a little closer to the island of Taiwan. Right? We know that historically China considered Taiwan as a part of its territory, right? And that's why it's always said that we are looking for an opportunity to get this island back to the motherland, China, right? So it looks like now that they have the indicators that the Americans are not able to face an probable invasion to Taiwan, China is tempted to do so. They will attempt it. They will try it. In a few days, in a few weeks, we don't know. But today, the officials of Thailand, started to warn that the Chinese are getting closer and closer to the island. So that's why Japan needs effectively all its naval force in order to be in alert over there. Australia is the same thing. South Korea is the same thing. South Korea is now facing a very aggressive and at the same time ambitious North Korea, because North Korea sent today or yesterday as a trial 10 missiles, over there in the sea, in order to show that they are capable to test effectively the new missiles that can be used for what? To invade South Korea. So you see, when I mentioned that Israel wants to sacrifice the United States for its interest, and everything that the Americans are doing under the order of President Trump, who is the hostage of the Epstein file, right, is for the interest of Israel and to the disadvantage of the United States. Now we can see that. Now we can see that Japan, South Korea, Philippines, all the countries of the region, including Australia, they cannot really count on the Americans in order to have some national security or protection or whatsoever against China, North Korea, and so on. Because this is what is happening for the Arab countries, right? I am pretty sure that all the Arab countries of the Persian Gulf will review, once the war is over, will review effectively their strategy of national security and national defense with this new reality that the Americans are not really able to protect them, because they are not even able to protect themselves, right? So we can see the huge changes that are coming just because of this misadventure of the United States by the force of the of Israel, into this war. On the basis of what's happening, the United States will be completely decredibilized, unreliable, and devoid of any seriousness to be taken as a superpower. This is what is going to happen. Now, let me tell you something that can help to understand even better the very dark future that is waiting for the United States of America. We know that this country has a logic of, let's say, social and political dynamic. You cannot find the ideological reasons really, or purely political reasons for the Americans getting mobilized, massively in order to participate in something collective. You don't see that unless an exceptional event happens, like the 9/11, and then, for a while, the Americans are, in the run, right, in the motion. They move and they do something, but otherwise, no. There is only one thing that can push the American society toward a, let's say, collective action. By collective, I mean common, not exactly gathering, but a common action, and essentially through the election. And this logic is the economic situation. When the economic situation is bad, it looks like that this is the only common denominator of the Americans to do something together. To remove, for example, a president from the White House. To push back one of the political parties that have created effectively a disastrous economic situation. And the bad news for Trump and Trump administration is that this is what is happening right now on the ground, which means in the deep levels of the American society. Let me show you something interesting to see how does it work. Here we have a case of someone who is talking about the cost of the gas, for the trucks. This is an American truck driver that is talking.
You may not be able to do it right now, but just very soon, you will start to see these prices. 2 weeks ago, I was paying less than $700 for a full tank.
All right, less than $700 for a tank a few days ago, and now it's a matter of $955. So let's say 700 and 1,000. $300 of difference. And of course, this discrepancy is what will be projected on all the prices. And this is what he's saying.
Now, two weeks later, we're up to nearly 1,000, even over 1,000 in some places. So you may not feel it now, but you will feel it very soon.
All right. You will feel it very soon. When? In a few weeks. Not further than in 2 weeks, maybe. And don't forget that at the moment we are talking here, the price of oil barrel is already $102, which means above $100. And in a few hours, with the opening of the stock market here in the United States, if there is no good news from Strait of Hormuz, which would be very surprising if it is, and if there is no any good perspective for the reopening of the strait, as I told you, all the countries are refusing categorically almost, but collectively the request of the Trump. And imagine Trump is telling us that today he said if there is a necessity to reopening the Strait of Hormuz, those who are receiving the energy from that region must do that, which means that we Americans are not really interested in Strait of Hormuz. We are not related. We are not importing energy from there. So China, South Korea, and so on. So you have to take care of that, which means that the United States is de facto, get out of the Persian Gulf, or let's say the Middle East. Because it's not able to play the role that had been promised, the role for which it had been highly paid by the Arab countries. Now, back to the United States, I have to say that now American society has started to think about why we have to bear with this guy who is waging a war that we don't want for Israelis, but we have to pay for, right? Because just in 1 week he spent something like $12 billion of the American taxpayers' dollars, for the benefit and the interest of Israel, and of course to the disadvantage and to the detriment of the Americans that are now realizing what is happening. Look at this second example.
I don't know about you, but I'm calling pure bullshit. Look at this. A week and a half ago, the same amount of fuel cost me $86. Look at it today. $131. Almost $50 more in a week and a half. You're telling me they got all that oil from overseas a week and a half, charge us more? I thought we had large oil reserves here and could produce more out of anybody in the world. This is pure bullshit. Talk about theft and screwing us.
This is it. And as you know, as I told you, in the United States, only when the economic situation starts effectively to have impact on the daily life, the people start to think. Otherwise, no, they are just busy with their life. As long as the life can go on and everything is fine, right? Even though there are wars here and there are genocide, there are slaughtering the defenseless people in North Africa, in Middle East, in Iraq, in Afghanistan. As long as the gas is cheap here and they can afford it, everything is fine. But you know what's happening? A lot of people who voted for Trump now started to think about the deception they were subjected to, right? They can see that they have been really played out, deceived by Trump and by the Republican Party. That's why I think if we are going to have a real change in the United States, it won't be by the Democrats. It won't be by the opponents of Trump. It will be certainly by the supporters of Trump that now have a better idea about the deep deceptions they were victim of, right? And that's why they are angry, they are frustrated, and they are highly completely deceived, we can say, and they start to think how they can take their revenge. And that's why there would be a possibility, of course, for Democrat or other political parties to get them, and to have a landslide where the Republican will be out completely, and even Trump will be subject to maybe a very short period of presidency, right? Because with the impeachment and other possibilities, certainly the future of President Trump will be at risk. So this is one of the reasons why we could be waiting for something paradoxically very bizarre, because the war is getting down, is crumbling the American economy, and at the same time, in order to avoid the consequences of this disastrous economy, Trump can go deeper in the quagmire of war. Why? Because now he wants to walk away from the social reality. Today he will crying about the fact that the media are not showing what he wants as the narrative, what he exposes as what's happening in the war, but later we will see that, and they will insist on more and more involvement and engagement of the United States, maybe by sending the boots on the ground or something like that, or at the end of the day using the nuclear bomb to show that he cannot be a loser of this war. Because psychologically we cannot imagine that someone like Trump can accept the loss of war, in front of Iranians, and at the same time being ready to lose everything inside by the Americans who turn back from him. So what does it mean? It means that with the psychology of Trump, we must be sure that he will be going toward kind of radicalism. And I am talking about the radicalism in war, for the extreme actions like bombing the most probably the oil facilities of the Harg Island, for example, and then passing to kind of carpet bomb of the residential area in Iran. I am pretty sure that the Israelis can suggest to him, and as he is in a total impasse, he will accept it, because at the end of the day he wants to win the war, right? He has already won, but not enough. You remember he said that we won, but we didn't win enough. So in order to make it enough, the Israelis can effectively suggest to do something really, really catastrophic, as I told you. By bombing, for example, the Iranian oil industry, he will be in a situation where the global economy will collapse, with oil barrel at $200, between $150 to $200, and all the consequences that will come later. And at the same time, for here, being completely defeated in the midterm election, and then being impeached and most probably tried. So what he will be planning with his Israeli advisors, of course, would be a few false flag operations in such a way that he can thwart completely elections. He can impede the normal course of election. no more election because of state of emergency or the things like that, with the Israeli false flag, like 9/11, and from that moment it would be possible to have a civil war. But don't forget that all these scenarios can look like really very dark, very gloomy, murky. But when you think about the psychology of this man as the one who has initiated all this wrong course for the United States from January 20 till now, you must believe in the possibility and the probability of all these catastrophic scenarios we are talking about to come about, to happen. Let me show you something very interesting, very funny, and at the same time interesting. Let's give the floor to Mr. Francis Fukuyama. You should be familiar with that. The historians and the philosopher who talked about the end of history after the Union Soviet collapse. So he's talking about Trump. It's very short, it's just 20 seconds, and he's telling us if you want to have a better understanding of what Trump, the person of Donald J. Trump represents for the United States and for the world, listen to this.
The world has become a very dangerous place because the most powerful country is under the control of a 10-year-old boy. That boy discovered a flamethrower in his parents' backyard and is now enjoying the ability to burn things up with it. I think that his parents really need to get him under control. The world...
All right. So... the way that the parents can take him under control is by elections. And imagine that if there is no election, right, what is in the balance is the future of the United States and the future of the globe, because of the stupidity of this man that he considers as a 10 years old boy. And when you compare effectively the gravity of the situation and the superficiality of the approach that this man is representing in its sayings, in its talks and thoughts, that is not metaphoric. He's not talking metaphorically. He's not talking, just for the sake of representing the idea. No, he's talking literally. Literally, we have someone at 80 years old, with a mindset, with a brain of a 10 years boy. So what to do? This is the result of 85 million votes of the Americans. The Americans that now are realizing when they go to the gas station that everything that this guy had said was completely false, fake, lie, and was just for getting them played somehow. Now, in order to conclude, let me talk about something interesting and important at the same time. In social science, we have a concept that is very significant for our discussion, which is heteronomy. Heteronomy is the control of an entity from outside or by outside of that entity. When an entity is managed, channeled, oriented by something outside itself. It looks like that for the United States, we are in this case. We are in the case of an heteronomous entity, which means I don't know from when we can say it exactly in order to have a date or a temporal point, but at a given moment, and I think particularly from the moment Trump started to come to the status of president, 2016 and then 2025. We can consider the United States as an autonomous entity, which means an entity that is not under influence of another country, because influence means that there are some rooms here and there in order to play an independent role. But I don't see that, because now the Israelis are controlling everything, but absolutely everything in the United States. Politics, the total politics, White House, House, Senate, somehow the Supreme Court, medias, right? And of course finance, everything else. So when you have the economy of a country under your control, you have everything. And the Israelis have, the Zionists have almost the total control of the American economy, and through that, through the Federal Reserve, through the control of the banks and markets, they can influence any single part of micro or macro structure of the United States. So we cannot talk about sovereignty, American sovereignty here. We cannot talk about autonomy or independence, even though there is a facade for that, but we know that deeply, anywhere and anyhow, the Zionists are controlling everything in the United States. And I think because of this, the idea that having this country as an actor that can decide for itself and act in such a way that's not really to the detriment of the national interest, national American interest. I don't know such a thing can exist or not, national American interest. Does it mean anything? With what we are developing, not really. In an autonomous entity, such a thing, national interest cannot exist, really. Because when we are talking about the American national interest, in reality we are talking about the Israeli national interest. We are talking about the Zionist interest, effectively, right? So, what's the result? The result is that the world is realizing that now a former superpower that we call the United States of America is now starting to, crumbling. I am talking about collapsing the American empire step by step, gradually, but surely. And I think the war we are talking about, the war of Israel and United States on Iran, we are in the 16th day of this war. This war is a turning point. And let me finish with explaining you the mechanism. We have always a process in which you have the accumulation of the little changes, right? The little changes start to add up, and at the end of the day, thanks to all this quantitative accumulation, you have a qualitative change. The qualitative change is where the things cannot be as in the past, even though there are the highest level of effort for. Okay, this shifting point is where there was enough accumulation of the quantitative elements to get there, and any opportunity or time that you wanted to have in order to start this process was before getting to that critical point of change, right? Before that, when this accumulation is taking shape, taking place. But once we are there, the particularity of the history is that once we are there, you cannot reverse the course. You can spend billions and billions of dollars, but you cannot really reverse this process, because the qualitative change or the change of quality had been done. Now you have to deal with the new essence, and this new essence has for feature to be engaged in a new course where again it will have its quantitative accumulation to get changed later. But the main point, the core of this equation is that once you are at that point, you don't have any possibility to turn around, you know. And I think those who are talking about stopping war, or I don't know, waiting for the elections, the things like that, in order to stop this process of degradation, this process of the American empire crumbling, falling to pieces. Those who are thinking in this way, they don't realize that we have already passed that qualitative change I am talking about, which means that we have already reached effectively that shifting point. The shifting point, to me at least, for my understanding, was the starting point of this war. Before this war, and we are talking about just 16 days ago, not 16 years ago, 16 days ago, there was a possibility to stop this process, because we were not yet accumulated enough quantitative element to have this change. But from the day one of this war, when everyone realized that there is no quick victory, and we are engaged in the next 24 hours of war after the first one, of course, at that time, it was something completely different. And I think that change, that qualitative change, had been done 16 days ago, and from that moment on, we are actually in a new course of history. We are in a new process of history. And because it's completely new, the people think that it's just the continuation of the old one, the former one, while it's completely wrong to think in this way. Because now we can see that the United States has lost during these 2 weeks what it had accumulated during decades. For each day, I can tell you that we can account for years and years of efforts and spending billions and billions of money, you know, all lost. Lost means now all of this belong to the history, to the past, and now we are engaged in a new way, in a new path of history. So this new path, because we are just at its beginning, will have a lot of surprises to us. including nuclear war. And surprise doesn't mean anything good or bad in itself. I mean, the things that we cannot imagine easily, but they are real and they are waiting for us. Some of them to the good, and some of them completely negative and scary, right? But that's the course of history. It has been done several times, this process, because this process takes decades and sometimes, like in the Middle Age, centuries. It takes 10 centuries, just to start a course, and getting to the end in order to have a qualitative change, renaissance, and starting a new pathway in the history. So sometimes it takes 1,000 years, sometimes 100 years, we don't know. But now I can tell you that in March 2026, we have started to enter a new course of history. That's a new point in the history, and it will have many surprising events for us, for current generation, and if there is no nuclear third world war, for the next generations. We will see that, and we will talk about that more. Thank you very much for watching this video. I ask you to help me to share these videos as much as possible if you can do that, and also share your comments and your points of view under these YouTube videos, so that we can have a kind of exchange of ideas with each other. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.